I'm Stacey Poon-Kinney, and I'm the chef owner of the Trails Eatery in San Diego, California. I started cooking at a young age. I was like always in my mom's kitchen, and she grew up in a family of chefs, so it's sort of just what we did with each other. Quality time equaled kitchen time. So I learned how to cook with her, and then I learned how to eat with my dad. We go to all kinds of fun restaurants all over, and I learned about different cuisines. So food's really just sort of been the center of my life, my whole life. I know exactly when I wanted to become a chef. I was 6 years old, and I had gone to the Boulangerie in Marina del Rey with my dad, and we were watching the pastry chefs make croissants. There was a window so you could watch them, you know, on this giant marble table make croissants. And in that moment, I knew I have to do this. And it took a long time to get there. We went through a whole bunch of different things that I thought I wanted to do. And I wanted to be a stockbroker. I was into math. I was an econ major. I, became a comm major, learned how to do video production, did all kinds of other things in my life, was a professional dancer. I feel like I'm one of those people that identify something that's interesting, I'm infinitely curious, and then I just go after it. Let's go see, how does this work? How can I try this? How can I become the best at this? I played volleyball, I coached, I used to rock climb. I don't know, I think that life is full because you're willing to go do. You name it, I tried it, but this is where I landed because this is where I'm supposed to be. But there's real honesty in what I do. I'm not trying to be anybody else. And I really love that I get to make burgers and fries and pancakes for people every day. It has its own value and its own place, and I appreciate what I do. People like pancakes, so there. My ingredient today is butter, because butter makes everything better. There's a lot of butter in my family. I don't know, I think there's butter in my veins. My kitchen is full of all of these cool things that I got from my mom that came from my great-grandmother, like the cast iron pan I'm cooking in was my great-grandmother's. She'd be I think 112 right now. And the cutting board I'm using is my great-grandmother's. And her love of butter, my great-grandmother's, became my mom's and now is also mine. So there's signs about butter, and they've always been in our kitchens. And so for me, this is really about heritage. And talking about heritage and knowing that so much of what we do around a table, so many of the ways that we connect with people is through food and expressing this heritage. Whether it's somebody making tamales for Christmas or it's, me cooking with a load of butter, that's how we express who we are, where we're from, and how we connect with one another. I use butter for everything. I don't put it in my coffee. I know some people do this. I can't do that. So some of the ways I use butter, we were actually talking about this earlier, was I like to make just a buttery pasta, with a bunch of parm or mizithras, a little bit salty for me sometimes, but a bunch of cheese in there. I like to add lemon to that though, to sort of break that up. I think acid's everything. In addition to butter, there's gotta be a balance. And then today I'm making a brown butter Johnny cake with a whole bunch of other fun ingredients in there, like blueberry jam from Alaska, which I got when I was there visiting my family, as well as some fresh blackberries and rosemary from the garden. The first thing I use is a cup of butter and an equal amount of a coarse ground cornmeal. Not everybody likes a coarse ground cornmeal. It's not a pleasant surprise if you bite into it and you don't know that it's gonna be, in there. Be forewarned. Okay, so a cup of flour, a cup of cornmeal, and then this recipe, in order to get the loft, instead of whipping egg whites, which I just find extra, we're gonna get it another way with putting a tablespoon of baking powder in there. I put a decent amount of sugar inside of it. I think there's 3 tablespoons of sugar. It just really brings out the sweetness of the corn. And then there's also salt and pepper. So that savory quality balances everything out. makes it a little bit more complex. And then the star ingredient is truly the browned butter. So I take butter and brown it, just have to be really patient. It's sort of like watching water boil. It's painful to wait for, but it is worth the wait. And then right as the proteins and sugar, start to caramelize, I add in a few pieces of rosemary, and the rosemary fries in the butter. So a lot of those oils come out into the butter. Pull the rosemary out, chop it up, throw it in the batter just to give it a little bit more depth of flavor. Put about a half a cup of brown butter into the batter itself, really trying to scrape those, browned bits into it and not just end up with that clarified butter. And mix that up with a cup of milk and let it rest for a few minutes and let its magic happen. And then put it into a pan with more butter, because why wouldn't we? So I'm using that clarified portion of it so that we don't get so much smoke. And then let that cook. And then as it's cooking, add in the blueberry jam, the blackberries, as well as some chopped up bacon. Top it with more jam mixed with more brown butter and some maple syrup, and top with fresh fruit. You're good to go. I'm super stoked that my husband is the artist on this episode. So he is known as Saki to the world. That's his nom de plume, or his name, like his writing name. So he is a graffiti artist. He has been writing for I don't know, more than 30 years. He was one of the first graffiti artists in California. He's been in lots of books and paints all over the world. He's in the history of American graffiti, and he's really well known. People may call him like a king in the industry, like in our part of the world. And I'm just stoked that we get to do this thing together. So often we're like busy doing our own projects, right? Like I'm a creative, he's a creative. We're always just sort of like running in our own directions and supporting each other where we can. Like he always says that he's the muscle at the restaurant, where I'm like, I need you to move 72 chairs. And he's like, be right there. So this is neat, where we can like add value to each other's passions in different ways in each other's businesses. So I'm excited for people to see what he does, like my other half. It's neat. Well, I'm really grateful that you came to share my love of butter. I know it's simple, but sometimes the best things in life really are. So, like my mom's sign says, food should be cooked with lots of love and lots of butter.